They say that money doesn't buy happiness, but building and having healthy financial habits can help you enjoy what's important in life, and that's living. While it is nice to increase your income, what if the key to success isn't earning more, but learning how to manage what you have? I want to welcome you back to the Tickets Towards Success podcast, where we dive deep into personal growth, health, fitness, and personal finance. I'm your host, Tucker Nunnikoven, and I want to thank you for tuning into this episode today. In this episode, we're diving deep into how to build healthy financial habits that'll set you up for success, not just in the short term, but for the rest of your life. So whether you're starting fresh or you're looking to refine from your existing habits, these insights will help you take control of your financial journey. What you can expect in this episode today is why financial habits matter for long-term success, practical steps to develop healthier money habits, lessons from experts, and some stories of financial transformation, how small, consistent actions can lead to big results, where you should be putting your money, and I'll also answer some common questions that are related to personal finance. And just as a quick reminder, if you do enjoy this episode today, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone that could benefit from these insights. My goal is to reach as many people as possible this year, so I would really greatly appreciate it. And with that being said, let's jump into this episode. Just as a quick disclaimer here, this is not financial advice. This is simply my opinion of how you should distribute your money to better suit your financial goals. And like I said, I'm going to start off each podcast episode with 3 things that I'm currently working on in my personal life to keep it relatable to the audience. The first one being organic marketing in the terms of utilizing short form content for my podcast, trying to make it better, trying to make it stand out, trying to get people's attention through that short form content, and then ultimately driving them to the podcast. The second thing that I'm working on is building my aerobic base for running in preparation for marathon training. I go into marathon training March 3rd, and I will be running a marathon on June 21st, Grandma's Marathon in Duluth, Minnesota. So right now, just with my lifting and my training, I'm doing a little bit of running about 3 days a week, keeping it kind of light because I'm trying to still build some muscle in my legs. And in the rest of my body, I just kind of bulked up a little bit over the winter. But I am still running a little bit, so I'm just working on keeping my heart rate really low and building my aerobic base. Yes, I will have an episode in the future on how to build your aerobic base and why running slower can actually help you run faster. And I will be doing a marathon episode as well, and kind of how I'm training for that and the steps that I'm taking to run that in June. The third thing that I'm working on right now is being consistently good instead of occasionally great. Making sure that I'm being consistently good every single day instead of having a few days out of the week or a few days out of the month where I'm just really, really good, and then the rest I'm just slacking off or I'm half-assing it. So I want to make sure that I'm being consistently good. With that being said, let's jump into part 1 of today's topic, and that is why healthy financial habits matter. Healthy financial habits are really the foundations of success in terms of building wealth and in terms of having good finances. And throughout today's episode, I want you to take everything that I say and relate it to finance. Don't relate it necessarily to life in general, but just generally finance. So healthy financial habits and having them are really the building blocks to stability in your life and creating some freedom in your life. They give you tools to navigate unexpected challenges while staying focused on your long-term goals. if you have healthy financial habits and something comes up in your life, you'll be able to take care of that and then also still be able to focus on investing towards your long-term goals. A really good example of this can be saving for emergencies and then versus living paycheck to paycheck. Setting aside $10 a week can make a huge difference over time. Now, the second reason why healthy financial habits matter is the power of consistency. And someone we're going to talk about today is going to be Warren Buffett. If you don't know who Warren Buffett is, he's probably the greatest investor of all time. Extremely, extremely wealthy, has made a lot of his money through the stock market and just investments in general. He has a really good quote, and he says, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." And successful people understand that consistency beats intensity. Building habits like budgeting, tracking expenses, and investing may not feel impactful today, but they create exponential growth over time. And there's a few common pitfalls that I need you to avoid. And that's going to be toxic spending habits such as impulse buying, living beyond your means, or relying on credit cards for wants instead of needs. And I want to just give my opinion on credit cards real quick. I do utilize credit cards every single day. I do think that they can be really, really good for some people. For other people, I think they can be really, really bad. For people that are not using them wisely, that are not using them responsibly, they can get them into a lot of trouble, into a lot of debt, and cause a lot of issues. But I do think that they can be useful. If you can use them correctly and responsibly, you can get cash back, you can get miles for travel, you can utilize these credit cards to at least get some money back from your spending throughout the year. And I think that can be a good thing. So I have nothing against credit cards, but just make sure that you're using them smartly. Make sure that you're using them only for needs rather than wants, and just make sure that you're educated on them as well. And a really good solution to some of these toxic spending habits can be the pause and plan method. And that's something that you can do before making non-essential purchases. And what I do is I call the 48-hour rule. If there's something that I want, I will decide to make that decision after 48 hours. I'll sleep on it a few times. I'll think about it through the course of the next 2 days, and then I'll come back to it and see if it's something that I really need. Okay, so let's jump into part 2 of today's podcast, and that's going to be lessons from experts with some examples. We're going to talk about 2 people, and that's going to be Dave Ramsey and Warren Buffett, who we've already talked about a little bit. The first one we're going to discuss is Dave Ramsey, and I'm going to give kind of my honest opinion. He's not my most favorite finance guy out there, but I do think that he's extremely knowledgeable. I've read his book, or one of his books. I have listened to a few of his radio show episodes. He's extremely knowledgeable, and I think he can really help a lot of people that are suffering from debt, that are in extreme debt, because he has a method. It's called the debt snowball method. And really, it focuses on paying off small debts first to kind of build momentum, and then you kind of just continue. And there's 7 steps to it, and I'm not going to mention that. You can go research it yourself or read his book. But part of the reason I don't like Dave Ramsey as much is because while he teaches you how to build some wealth, he doesn't really teach you or explain to you that it's important to try and find multiple streams of income, or it's important to put yourself out there and take some risks, especially early on, in order to gain wealth in the long run. And that's what a lot of wealthy people do if you study them, research them, and listen to them. I don't like how he doesn't really teach that, but he does teach people that are in debt, and a lot of people are in debt in the United States. So I get that that's a need for people to learn how to get out of debt, and that's kind of what he did. So he's really good at that, and I would highly recommend if you are in debt or if you're suffering from some form of high interest, high risk debt, to listen to his method and follow it step by step and get out of it as soon as possible. And he always talks about breaking down your debt. And once you start that process and watch it get lower and lower and lower, it gives you a lot of confidence. And that is when you start realizing that it actually works. And that's what the debt snowball method is all about. An example of kind of that path that he would recommend that you could take would be starting with the highest interest first. So let's say you have credit card debt. He would be like, you need to start there and pay that off. Take the smallest amount of credit card debt you have and pay that off first. That creates some momentum. And then take the second smallest, pay that off until it's all paid off in credit cards. And then move on to student loans, or then move on to your car payment, and then move on to your mortgage. The car payment and the student loans can be flip-flopped. He would recommend that you sell your car and you just drive around an old beater, which isn't a bad idea. If you are in some extreme debt, then yeah, that might be something that you should take a look at. But that is what he would recommend. There's more to the steps, especially with the mortgage being the last one. He recommends that, you pay off your debt and then you do some investing, save for your kids' college, things like that, and then you kind of start paying off your mortgage. But that's the last thing because it's just so long and it's so much, and it's really not as important as credit cards or student loans, things like that. The second person that I want to talk about is Warren Buffett. And he's really big on long-term thinking. Obviously, he created his wealth through the stock market. I'm sure that he has other investments as well, probably real estate, things like that. But he really has a long-term thinking strategy. And another quote from him is, someone's sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago. And that's really, really impactful. That's planting a seed to gain success later on down the line. And ask yourself, what is the best investment that you will ever make? It's not necessarily stocks. It's not necessarily real estate. It's not crypto. It's you. The skills and knowledge that you can gain from investing in yourself will pay off for the rest of your life. And that's something that Warren Buffett's really big on. And that's something that I really agree with him on. Invest in yourself and your future, whether that's through education, whether that's through investing in retirement accounts such as a Roth IRA, or creating multiple streams of income, or at least trying to create multiple streams of income. Because even though you're trying and you may fail, you're going to learn something, and then you can take that to the next thing that you try to do, and that may produce you another form of income. And kind of as a personal example, towards the end of 2024, I had to be really watchful of my spending habits. I really wanted to get my podcast started, but I also wanted to make sure that I could get some decent equipment because I wanted to focus on putting out quality content. But I also wanted to make sure that I was having a good budget for that equipment and making sure that it wasn't blown out of proportion. So I really did have to be weary about what I was spending my money on, especially during the holidays, buying gifts for friends and family, and just in general, buying a lot of stuff throughout that month. Because I know that I had that goal, and that was to get this podcast started. And to be honest with you, it doesn't take a lot, but if you want to get some quality stuff, if you want to get some lighting stuff, which I just got, it takes a little bit of an investment, but it's nothing too crazy, and you can start with less. It's just what I had in mind for when I wanted to start. But the good thing is by investing in this podcast, I'm going to learn skills that'll stick with me for the rest of my life. I will learn and grow from doing this. And that's part of the journey. And that's probably the most exciting part about starting it. All right, let's jump into part 3 of this podcast. And in my opinion, this is the most important part, and that's how to build healthy financial habits. And the first one, you need to start small, but you also need to think big. I need you to set achievable goals for your finance. We talked about achievable goals in episode 2 about goal setting. And for example, this can be saving $500 for an emergency fund, and then you can scale that to $1,000. And you need to do it in a certain time frame so you make sure that you're disciplined and that you're consistent. You can also automate your savings, direct deposit a percentage of your income into a separate account before you even see it or touch it. And to be honest with you, I do not do that. I check my finances probably every single day. I don't know why. It's just the way I am. I'm passionate about personal finance. Just want to make sure everything is in order and make sure that I'm learning and make sure I know where all my money is. So I personally don't automate my savings because every time I get paid, I have a routine that I do, and I make sure that I'm putting that amount of money into different savings accounts that are related to different goals that I have for that year or for the next 10 years. The second thing that we need to do to build healthy financial habits, track your spending. Use budgeting apps or use a simple spreadsheet to understand where your money goes. There's people out there that give away free spreadsheets on YouTube that you can use. That's what I did. That's what I have. There's a guy that I follow, Daniel Braun, on YouTube that gives away a free Excel spreadsheet that's a budget. And I modified it a little bit to my liking and kind of put in some different formulas and put in an investment tab and debt tab and all this kind of stuff. But that's what I did. And it's a lot easier than writing it down. Yes, you can write it down. Yes, you can see it in front of you, but that takes a lot of effort. And yes, putting in effort into certain things is very important, especially your finances. But you also want to simplify it as much as possible so you continue to do it as well. And like I said, I use that spreadsheet that I got. If you ever would like to see what mine looks like after I modified it and kind of how I use it, I can make a YouTube video on that. Just let me know down below in the comments. Another great app that you can use too is Rocket Money. I don't use Rocket Money personally, but I have a friend that does, and he really likes it. You can put in, all your different kinds of investment accounts. You can put in your credit cards that you have. It'll give you the balances of those credit cards. And then also you can see all of the balances of your investments in one app, which is really, really cool. I don't use it just because I like my spreadsheet so far and I like doing it that way, but I may switch over to Rocket Money in the future. Who knows? But that's just another example. And there's tons of other apps out there. Just try whatever one works best for you if that's the route that you want to go down. And a challenge, go 1 week tracking every dollar that you spent. Just 1 week. It's very eye-opening, and it's really a great way to identify the areas of improvement that you need, where you're spending your money, where you shouldn't be spending your money, how much money you're spending in those categories where you shouldn't be spending your money, all the stuff that you're buying. When you see a spreadsheet built out with all the stuff that you're buying, you're going to be like, this is a lot of stuff to buy in 1 week. Or if you do it for a month, it's a lot of stuff to buy in 1 month. The third step to building healthy financial habits, adopt the pay yourself first mindset. What I need you to do is I need you to prioritize saving before spending. Even if it's only 5 to 10% of your income, this habit creates financial safety net and it opens opportunities for investments. So you need to make sure and pay yourself first, even if it's just a little bit at a time, even if it's just $10 a week, right? But try to get it as high as you possibly can. And that's why it's important to budget so you can know how much money you can put per month into investments. Now, the fourth step to building healthy financial habits is to celebrate progress, not perfection. And I've talked and touched on this in recent episodes or past episodes. And like I've said, I'm going to keep saying things that are super important because that's what I believe. And it might be a little bit repetitive, but it's super, super important and critical. Celebrate progress, not perfection. For example, if you pay off a credit card or if you stick to a budget for 3 months, it's worth celebrating. And maybe if once you pay off that credit card or if you stick to a budget and you're not in any red, you're all in green, maybe that is when you can buy something that you've been wanting, new pair of shoes, something for your business, new phone case. I don't know. I just kind of pulled that one out. But that's what I'm saying. You can start buying something that you've been wanting, but make sure that you stay within the budget still. You have that budget for a reason because it's built around the income that you make right now. It's built around your spending habits right now. So make sure if you buy something you've been wanting that it's still within your budget. And it should be. And that's how you can create more healthy financial habits. And that's also a good example of delayed gratification. Waiting and waiting and waiting to buy something. And it's going to feel so much better once it gets there and you have it after you waited for it. Now, the fifth and final reason, or the fifth and final step, to building healthy financial habits, and that is where to put your money. This is going to be a long step because there's a lot of different places you can put your money. I'm going to only touch on the things, the places, the investments where the average person is going to be able to do that, no problem. And first off, I want to say do not put your money in a traditional savings account with your bank. Do not put it in a bank savings account. Don't put your money in a traditional savings account. If you do, you're losing free money. Here are 5 accounts where you should actually be placing your money. And I'm going to touch on all of these. Roth IRA, personal brokerage, high yield savings account, traditional 401k, crypto, things like that. The thing about putting your money into a traditional bank savings account is if you have $1,000 in there and you gain 0.01% interest over the course of a year, you'll gain $1 in 1 year for having $1,000 in there. The other accounts that I'm going to talk about, they don't give you hundreds and millions of dollars, but they sure do better than $1 per year. I can tell you that. So the first account we're going to talk about is the Roth IRA. I think it's the most important account that you can have as a traditional American that is just starting out investing, or maybe you have your 9 to 5 and you enjoy working your 9 to 5 and you just want to have some kind of really good and secure and great retirement account. And that's going to be your Roth IRA. And within that, in my opinion, the best things to put your money into would be like ETFs or index funds. And You can get a Roth IRA anywhere. You can go online and you can learn about it. You can learn who offers really good Roth IRAs. You can go to your bank if you're at a big enough bank. For example, I bank with Chase, JP Morgan. They have a Roth IRA through their bank, so that's where I have mine. You can do it through a third party, like a financial advisor if you'd like, and they can kind of handle all that for you. I will say that I'm not the biggest fan of that. And the only reason is because of stories like Bernie Madoff or Jordan Belford. And I know that that goes really deep, but I just don't like not necessarily knowing where my money's going or being able to see it all the time. And if something happened to my money when they were holding it or putting it into the Roth for me, I would be so upset. But if something happened when I was doing it, I would still be upset, but I know that that's on me. That's because I didn't put in the time, the research, and the energy to really figure out where I should be putting my money. So that is my personal opinion on the Roth IRA. I think it's the most important account that you can have at no matter what stage of your life. The earlier you can get into it, the more important it is because it all focuses with the ETFs and the index funds on compounding interest year over year over year. If you're 25 right now and you don't have a Roth IRA, get it. If you're 30, get it. If you're 40, maybe looking at other options. If you're 18 and you have no idea what it is, you need to learn about it and get it. Make sure that you get a Roth IRA as soon as possible to get the compound interest effect. Another really important note to make on a Roth IRA is it's a retirement account. In order to not pay any fees, you have to wait to pull out your money until you're 59 and a half. So you cannot pull it out until you're 59 and a half. And another thing to note, probably the most important thing that I should have brought up when I first started talking about it, is your Roth IRA is all post-tax. So you get your paycheck, you pay your taxes, and then you take your income and you invest it into a Roth. So that way you're not paying taxes when you pull it out when you turn 59 and a half. So that's why I like Roth IRAs so much. And that's why they're very important to make sure that you have one for retirement. But make sure and remember that you cannot pull that out till 59 and a half. Now, the second account I want to talk about is just a personal brokerage. You can get this same as a Roth really anywhere. I have one through my bank Chase. So I have both those accounts, but I have my personal brokerage through there. You can invest in ETFs and index funds. You can invest in individual stocks like Apple or Google or Amazon, things like that. I always do ETFs or index funds just because it takes a bunch of different stocks like the S&P 500 and you put your money into that. So then, you're not guaranteed, but it's very likely that it's going to always show growth over time. And that way you're not putting into one stock and only relying on that one company. The good thing about a personal brokerage is that you can take that money out at any time. So this is really good for kind of like a short to mid savings goal. For example, what I use mine for right now is I put a little bit in there per month. It's not a lot at all. It's between $50 and $100. That's what I'll say. But my goal right now is for a down payment on a boat someday. That's what my personal brokerage is for. But that could change over time. But that's just what I have in mind right now. I'm very passionate about boating, yada, yada, yada. We won't get into all that. But that is just my goal in mind for it right now. And if that changes, fine. I'm still just investing consistently over time. The third account that I want to talk about, and probably my favorite investing account, which is a high yield savings account. I actually have 4 different high yield savings accounts. And there's one thing that you really, really need to pay attention to, when getting a high yield savings account, and you need to make sure that it is FDIC insured up to a certain amount. I think all of mine are insured up to $300,000. So that just means that, say, I have $500,000 in one of my high yield savings accounts, which, by the way, would never happen. But say I did. Say for some reason I lost it all. They would only insure up to the $300,000. But luckily, like I said, you should never have that amount of money in there. If you do, you're doing something wrong. You should probably be looking at getting a private banker and doing things like that. So the cool thing about a high yield savings account, they're usually used for short to mid-term goals for finance or for savings. They usually can get you about a 4 to 5% return on interest per month. And they can be used for different things. What I use mine for is like an emergency fund, down payments for a future house, maybe a future car. You can use it for travel funds or sinking funds. 5 to 15 years to buy something. Typically, that's the time range for these accounts. And like I said, they should not be used to store a lot of money. You need to be looking elsewhere. Real estate, probably, if you have a good amount of money. But anyways, yes, be smart about the debt that you have, though. For example, I have student loans. They get a certain amount of interest per month. One of them is around 4.9%. So you need to make sure, if you have something similar to that, that you're paying off that debt first before you're investing and putting a bunch of money into a high yield savings account, because it's canceling out one another. If I put that in and I get 5% interest that month, but then I have to pay 5% interest on my student loan that same month, it's canceling out. So make sure you pay off your high interest debt first. Credit cards, student loans, if you have them, things like that. Car loans, maybe, before you're really putting money into a high yield savings account. My opinion, I would build an emergency fund of $1,000, and then I would stop putting anything in there. I wouldn't open any more accounts, such as high yield savings accounts, for anything else until I have that high interest debt paid off. All right, so I'm going to talk about 2 more accounts here that I have weighing opinions on. Let's just put it that way. I want to talk about the traditional 401k, and I also want to talk about cryptocurrency. Just as a point of reference, I do have both of these accounts. My traditional 401k is through my employer, and I also have or invest in crypto through Coinbase. Let's start off with the traditional 401k. First off, if you don't like my opinion on this, I'd love to know yours. So please drop a comment and let me know your opinion on the traditional 401k. The first thing that I'm iffy on about the traditional 401k is, hypothetically, you will pay higher taxes later on in life. So for those of you that don't know, a traditional 401k is another retirement account where you distribute before tax dollars into a retirement account, usually through your employer. So mine comes out before my paycheck gets taxed, and then it goes into this account. Now, the downside of this is when I cash out my traditional 401k at 59 and a half, I will pay taxes and fees on that. So, like I said, it's a really good possibility that you'll be in a higher tax bracket when you go to pull that out. You'll be paying higher taxes later on. As your income grows, you'll be placed in a higher tax bracket. And since you have to pay taxes on that money when you pull it out of the 401k, and it all really depends on the tax rate. The bad thing is it's also taxed to death. The money that you think is free is really based off the employer's match. And that goes back to the government from the taxes. So usually most employers will offer a match. They'll match 3% and then, so much percent on the next two, whatever that may be, or maybe they'll match a full 5%. That's usually what they'll do. So if you put 5% of your paycheck into your 401k and your company or your employer promises to match that 5%, they will put that in as well. So they're getting you to believe that you're getting free money. But the bad thing is once you get taxed, all that free money goes back to the government because of those taxes. And you're the only one that suffers because most employers can write off a certain amount of the contributions that they made to matches for their employees. And that's how these businesses do this. And realistically, the 401k was built for Wall Street. The ending balance of a 401k, or in my opinion, of any retirement account, is usually never enough to retire on for the average person. And that's based off the average in America of what it is when you pull it out. Now, I will say that for the people that probably invest more than 5%, it probably is enough by the time they're 59 and a half. But I also don't believe, and I don't think, and I'm kind of assuming here that a lot of people don't put in more than what their company matches. The funny thing about the 401k being built on Wall Street or for Wall Street is Wall Street collects all these fees on your money, and that's how they make money, and that's how they create cash flows, when they collect on these fees when you pull out that money at the end of the day, or the fees of when you're putting that money in. The last thing that bothers me about the 401k and about any retirement account, even though I like the Roth IRA so much, is not being able to pull your money out till 59 and a half. That's your money. Imagine going to the bank, be like, I want to pull out this $10,000. But like, you can't do that until you're 59 and a half. And my thought process is, especially if you're young, if you have a Roth IRA, I don't personally believe you need a traditional 401k. Like I said, I do have it, but it's at a really small percent, and I turn it on and off throughout the year. But my thought is, why not take that percentage from your paycheck that would be investing into the 401k and put it towards or save up for a cash flow investment, that pays you every month? Or what if you take that money and invest it into yourself and get educated on some skills? Or what if you take that money and invest it into a business that you've been wanting to start? I mean, what if I took that money and I invested it into my podcast? Maybe that is what I did. Right? So put your money into something that you can control. That's what's really important here. A 401k is really out of your control, and you really truly have no idea how much of that money is yours. So just be smart with it. If you want to do it, that's fine. Like I said, I do have it. I turn on and off, small percentage, but if you want to have it, just be smart with it. Make sure it's really well set up. Read all the fine print that your employer provides you if that's what you go through. Just make sure that you're being smart with it. So the third place where you can put your money that a lot of people they speculate on it, and that's going to be crypto. I will say that I am a fan of crypto for the reasons that I am about to give. It is risky. Every investment is risky. But cryptocurrency, with it being so new and it's very in the unknown, it's very risky. But there's a few things as to why I like it. And I have read a few books on crypto that really kind of changed my mindset on the view of it and why I started getting and investing in it. Number one, it's decentralized. So there's no single point of potential failure. There is no single location or individual that can threaten the network of crypto. And that's either maliciously or through incompetence. It's just not possible. It's so secure. There is no hacking it. It's not possible. The second reason that I love crypto, and that's going to be the blockchain technology. With the blockchain technology of Bitcoin, so Bitcoin was the original crypto, just for those of you that may not know. So with the blockchain technology of Bitcoin, you're able to transfer money 24/7, 365. The recipient of that transaction will literally receive that money within minutes, and possibly it could be even within seconds. And the transactions usually have really low fees. Now, it's still in the works, it's still in the process, it's still very new to a lot of people, and it's not a currency yet. It's more of an investment, right? But being able to do that is such a game changer because wire transfers at banks take forever. Say that you want to go purchase a used car from someone on a Saturday, and you want to pay for it using a wire transfer. Well, most people want you to stay at the bank until that wire transfer goes through, but it might not go through that day. Then what do you do? Or it takes a long time during that day. It takes at least a few hours. That's probably the fastest that you'll see it come through for a wire transfer to go through. And that is the annoyance with those. And that is what Bitcoin and blockchain technology can solve for the future. And for example, just imagine that a bank has each dollar bill scattered in vaults all over the world. There is no possible way that a hacker could track them down and steal them. It's impossible. That's how secure and how advanced blockchain technology is. They are unhackable. And it's fascinating. It's so complicated that even for someone that knows a little about it, it still is unfathomable to me how it all works. And I have to reread the books that I do have when I'm investing in it because I'm trying to be smart about it, right? Just like how you should in every investment. Another good reason is there's a really good possibility of it becoming a digital currency in the future. There's a crypto, it's called XRP. It has the chance to be able to be a digital currency based off its structure, and that's what it was made for. But even if that doesn't work, there will be some other company and there'll be some other person that comes along that does find something to make a digital currency through crypto, through blockchain technology work. Like I said, it's risky, fluctuates, but so does everything else. The technology behind crypto is unbelievable. And if you ever get the chance to read the white paper of Bitcoin, it's written by the creator of Bitcoin. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but he talks about blockchain technology. He talks about the vision he has for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Now, why do you need something like crypto in your portfolio? It's the same reason that you need everything else, diversification. You really don't have to put a lot into crypto if you're really scared of it. But I would highly recommend putting at least a little bit in it. And this really has a chance of becoming a currency of the future, like I said. For those of you that know who BlackRock is, one of the largest global investment companies in the world. If you look up any company on Yahoo Finance, I challenge you, go to Yahoo Finance right now and look up Amazon and look up who owns it. BlackRock owns more percents than Jeff Bezos does. Go to Facebook, do the same thing. Go to Google, do the same thing. Go to the biggest companies in the world. BlackRock owns the highest percentage of every single one of them. They are the largest global investment company in the world. And they're also building their own stock market in Texas. Texas is going to have its own stock market. But the reason I mentioned BlackRock is because they confirmed that crypto has a chance of becoming a digital currency in the future. The CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, he stated that Bitcoin can overcome concerns of instability of local currencies. And it's so true. The possibilities are endless with cryptocurrency. Someone just has to come along and really make it work and be able to educate people correctly about how it works and what they can do with it. And that'll be a while before that happens, in my opinion, just because it is so complicated. If you want to learn more about crypto, though, I would highly recommend reading the book. It's called The Truth About Crypto. It's by Rick Edelman. Really good book. He takes you through exactly what crypto is, how it works, how blockchain technology works, the differences between fiat money, which is what the American dollar is, versus crypto, and how crypto can change the digital currency or the currency space in the future by going to a digital currency. Great book. Teaches you a lot, and you can learn a lot about crypto from that book. Another good book would be just to read the white paper, like I mentioned before, by the creator of Bitcoin. Last thing I want to touch on is I didn't really talk about real estate. A lot of people say real estate is the ultimate wealth building tool if you can do it correctly and if you can do it smartly, which I agree on. Robert Kiyosaki talks about this in Rich Dad Poor Dad and all of his investment books. And I believe that. I want to get into real estate eventually. I have plans of what to do and how I can do it already. I have a lot of learning, a lot of growing to do. I'm just not doing that right now because it doesn't apply to my life. I'm not going to give any advice on real estate because I've never invested in it. I've invested in REITs before, which is just real estate and investment trusts, which is it's like basically the stock market for real estate. But I do believe that if you're listening to this and you're someone that has a lot of money, which I highly doubt that anyone is listening to this that has a really good sum of money, I would certainly look at investing in real estate, whether that be investing into a fourplex, a duplex, and then renting out the other ones, short-term rentals such as Airbnbs, things like that, or maybe going in and pooling money with a bunch of investors to invest in some kind of project. But like I said, I don't want to give advice because I don't personally invest in it. And when that time does come, I will make an episode on that. All right. The last part of this podcast, I'm going to just answer and go over some common questions that revolve around personal finance. I got 3 questions here. The first one being, how do I start building healthy financial habits if I'm living paycheck to paycheck? 4 steps to do that. Number 1, track your expenses. We talked about that earlier. Number 2, focus on building small emergency fund of $1,000. I would recommend putting that into a high yield savings account so you can get at least a little bit of interest month after month. Number 3 is create a realistic budget that prioritizes your essentials to live, pay debt payments, and invest. So make sure that you're creating that realistic budget and you're putting in categories for investing, making sure that you're paying off all of your debt each month in full, and make sure that you're building in your living expenses, groceries, rent, gas, things like that. Number 4, if you are struggling financially, you must understand that your income is your number 1 wealth building tool. So go get a side hustle, switch jobs, or level up your skills, then learn where the best places are to invest your money. Make sure that you're putting in the effort to have as much income right now as you can. Yes, sometimes 9 to 5s suck. They really do. And sometimes when you have a higher paying 9 to 5, it's a lot of work. They underpay like crazy. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. But we have to do it. If you're someone that's trying to, or that's wanting to get out of that eventually and have a business or whatever, you still have to do that right now. And it's important because A, you have to live, and B, you want to be able to set yourself up for success by either investing in that business or investing in skills for yourself or investing in certain investment accounts that'll help you in the long run. So just make sure that you're prioritizing your number one wealth building tool, which is your income. So if you have to work 2 jobs, do it. If you have to find a side hustle, do it. If you have to switch jobs, do it. The second question, what is the best way to stick to a budget? Number one, make it realistic. Calculate out your monthly expenses and your income every single month. Number two, use tools like apps and spreadsheets to track your progress like we talked about. There's free spreadsheets out there for you from people that are on YouTube, or I'm sure you can just find one if you type in a quick Google search. You can use apps like Rocket Money, and there's a few other ones out there that I've heard are really good. Number three, automate all your bill payments and your savings deposits. Like I said, I don't do my savings ones personally because I'm heavily involved in my finances. If you're someone that's not like that, I would recommend doing that though. Because once you calculate all of your monthly expenses and your income out, you will have a good idea of how much you can automate for your savings. I do automate my bill payments. I do put those on credit cards to earn points because those are something that I would spend organically either way. The last step to stick to a budget would be to review it often. I review mine every single day. Like I said, I'm looking at it every single day, making sure I'm staying on track, making sure my investments are right, making sure my bills are getting paid right, making sure I'm paying off my debt. I just look at it every single day, and it's probably a little bit unhealthy at this point. I wouldn't recommend it. And I probably should prioritize not doing that as much. But make sure that you review your budget, your spreadsheets, your investments often. The third question, should I focus on saving or paying off debt first? Honestly, I have never been in a lot of debt, thankfully. Very grateful for that. But from learning from Dave Ramsey and from just being in personal finance for the past couple of years and learning from different people, there's really 5 things that you should do. And number one is if you can do both, do both. If you can pay off debt while investing, make sure you do that. I would prioritize paying off the debt and just investing a small amount at first and then switching that once the debt is paid off. Second thing is start by building a small emergency fund and put it into a high yield savings account to collect some decent interest while it sits there, and just don't touch it. And that just goes back to putting that $1,000 in there and having that as an account where if anything were to happen, God forbid, that you just have that there. Number 3 is focus on your high interest debt first, credit cards, car payments, etc. Pay that down, and then you can start investing a little bit more. Fourth one is make minimum payments on small interest debt while you pay down high interest debt. Make those minimum payments on that low interest. For example, if you have credit card debt, make sure you're paying that off in full each month, but you also have student loan debt. Make sure that you're just at least paying the minimum that you have to each month. The fifth step, or the fifth thing, is once high interest debt is gone, start focusing on increasing your savings, but make sure that you are paying your debts in full each month. So once you get rid of that high interest debt, such as a credit card or car payment, something like that, and you start focusing on your savings, if you're using a credit card still, which hopefully you've gained more better habits, make sure that you're setting that up on auto pay and that you're paying that off in full every month, and make sure that you are only using that credit card for needs and not wants, like we touched on earlier in this episode. All right, so there's 3 key takeaways that I want to make sure that you have from today's episode. The first one being, stop waiting for the perfect financial plan. Just start. Progress beats perfection every time when it comes to money and finances. The second key takeaway is start small and just track your progress and focus on consistency. Being consistently good is better than being occasionally great, right? Just what I talked about for something that I'm working on with everyday life, it applies to personal finance as well. The third thing is learn from experts and use tools that really simplify the process of personal finance. Learn about money. Learn from experts like Warren Buffett, Dave Ramsey, Robert Kiyosaki, people like that. There's tons of them out there. So go pick up a finance book and just start reading. Find who you like and what strategies work for you. Another really good book that I could recommend that talks about money, talks about the Federal Reserve, talks about a lot of different things throughout history is The Creature from Jekyll Island. It's a very long book and it's just very hard to understand at certain points. So you kind of have to reread it, but it is a very good book and it'll teach you a lot about money. As for final thoughts, I just want everyone to remember that the way that you handle your finances today will shape the opportunities that are available for you tomorrow. By taking control of your habits, you're giving yourself the freedom to dream bigger and live better. And that is it for today's episode of Tickets Towards Success. If this resonated with you, I'd really love to hear your thoughts. So leave a comment, and if you're up for it, please share this with someone that would benefit from these insights. And be sure to follow me on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram for more content like this and also bonus content. And don't forget that I do post episodes every Monday. And next Monday, we're going to talk about motivation and why it's not real. So turn on those notifications so you never miss an episode, or download my podcast for continuous updates. Please, please, please remember that every step forward grants you another ticket toward achieving your goals. And the more that you collect, the more that you will learn and grow. I will see you in the next episode.